Hello, everyone. Today we want to share some answers to commonly asked questions by students such as yourselves regarding the Disability Services Office. We have Judith Walker, the Disability Services Coordinator, and myself, Kathy Sider, the Disability Services Testing Center and Alternative Formatting Coordinator presenting. Judy will give us a little more information about what our office does.
Thank you, Kathy. Under the Americans with Disabilities Act, all universities are required to provide reasonable accommodations for students that may have disabilities. Our office is the office that you would reach out to receive these academic accommodations that are much needed.
Jumping right in, the first question we get asked, who is eligible to register for disability services?
This is a great question, and this is a question that we get asked all the time. So I want to just address the myths about disability services. So a lot of students feel that if you don't have a physical or learning disability, you will not be approved for academic accommodations. Not true. ADHD, bipolar, generalized anxiety disorder, depression, PTSD, these are all accommodations that would allow you to have academic accommodations.
All right. Next, what type of documentation do I need to provide?
This is a great question. So say, for example, you have a chronic health condition. We would need documentation from your medical doctor. We would need the credentials of your doctor, and we prefer that it be on professional letterhead, and it should include an actual diagnosis. So the key here is that it should include an actual diagnosis. Let's talk about ADHD, which is one of the most common disabilities that we work here at the university. So for ADHD, a doctor can't look at you and say, oh, you have ADHD. They can't take a blood test to determine that you have ADHD. You need to go through a battery of psychological testing to determine that you have ADHD. So once you go through that battery of psychological testings, that would be documentation that is needed for a disability of ADHD.
All right. And please note, if you are currently being tested or seeking treatment at this time, never hesitate to make that initial appointment with the Disability Services Office to get this process started. The third question kind of goes with the second. I have an IEP or 504 plan in high school where I receive academic accommodations. Is this enough?
Perfect. This is a very good question. And a typical IEP or 504 plan would be something that a freshman student that's transitioning from high school would bring to the Disability Services Office. Although we accept IEPs and we recognize 504 plans, it's not quite enough. You need something more. So, not to worry, if you have an IEP or you have a 504 plan, we will not turn you away. We recognize that you are in need of academic accommodations. We will provide you next steps as to how to get the appropriate documentation. And in the meantime, we'll provide you a provisional accommodation for the entire term, which will allow you to get the appropriate documentation in a timely fashion.
Next, we're always asked, how do I schedule an appointment with your office? So all appointments are scheduled online by students themselves. They are being held remotely through the Blue Jeans application at this time, and we will be transitioning to the Zoom Health platform shortly. Again, the availability is online. The best way for you to schedule an appointment is to go online to the University of Michigan-Dearborn homepage. Once you're on the homepage, search for the Disability Services Office. Once you're on our web page, in the upper left-hand corner, you will see a Getting Started with Disability Services button. Click that. You can scroll through that and read the information about getting started with our office if needed. There's also a scheduling guide available for review on this web page. When you are ready to make your appointment, a Schedule an Appointment button is present on the page for your convenience. Now let's talk about the types of appointments you can make with our office. The first type of appointment you can make with our office is an intake appointment. You will make an intake appointment if this is your first time registering with our office. The second and popular type of appointment is a re-enrollment appointment. Every semester, we require students to schedule and attend a re-enrollment appointment with the Disability Services Coordinator. This allows you time to discuss your new courses and accommodations needed for that term. A third option you will see is a follow-up appointment. This is so you can meet with the Disability Services Coordinator for any other reasons or issues that may pop up during your semester. As you actually go within the system to create your appointment, make sure you click the Confirm Appointment button on the day and time that works for you. Without clicking this button, you have not locked in your appointment. This has happened many times, so always click the Confirm Appointment button. On the day of your scheduled appointment, look for an email from our office with your appointment link. That is the link you will join at your scheduled time. The next question we're asked sometimes after you actually meet with Judy, the Disability Services Coordinator, students reach back out to inquire what should they do next. So Judy, what do you recommend for students to do after they meet with you?
Perfect. So many great questions. So yes, absolutely, there is something that you should do after you meet with me. I will always advise that you ask your instructors if they have received the letter of accommodations from Disability Services. And if they have not received that letter for any reason, they say no, just let me know. I don't mind resending it. We don't want you to get to the point where you're getting additional time on your exam and the instructor says, no, I never received a letter from the Disability Services office. This also brings me to the point of additional time on your exam and how will you actually receive additional time for your exams. So even though I'm sending a letter to the instructor saying that you're entitled to additional time on your exams, it is your responsibility as a student to email your instructor about 3 days in advance, letting them know that you want to use your additional time. Why should you do this? Well, your accommodations are yours to manage as you feel you need to manage them. You may use your additional time on an exam. Maybe you didn't use it on a quiz. Your accommodations are not going to get taken away from you. And just remember, your instructors cannot read your mind.
All right. Next, I am absent due to my medical condition. What should I do as a student?
Another great question. So if you're absent due to your medical condition, maybe you have an accommodation that was sent to the instructor saying that your medical condition may cause some absences. However, this accommodation does not allow absences. Whenever you're absent from class, whether it's 1 or 2 days or it's a week, you should always be communicating with the instructor while the absences is going on. So you may say, well, I was hospitalized and I could not communicate with my instructor. In these situations, please ask a family member to communicate with your instructor. If your family member is not comfortable with doing that, the family member can always reach out to me and I'm more than happy to send an email with your approval, of course, to the instructors, letting them know that you have been hospitalized and you will contact them upon your return.
All right. Next, I need closed captioning for my courses. How do I make sure that it is there?
This is such a very, very important question during this remote learning environment. So if you have an accommodation of closed captioning, most likely you have a disability of being hearing impaired or being deaf. So in this situation, in the letter I would be sending your instructor would say that you are required to have closed captioning. Under the Americans with Disability Act, any student that is hearing impaired or deaf is required to have closed captioning. So remind you, I'm saying required a couple times because it is not if you want to, or I felt like it, or I would like to. It is a requirement that instructors provide closed captioning for any student that is deaf or hearing impaired for all videos that are being shown in the classroom. Kathy, I am so happy that we were able to answer so many questions for the students that have joined us today. And I hope that you have found answers to many of your questions that you have been wondering about. And lastly, I just want to remind you, for any students that may be having mental health difficulties, We have our CAPS office, which is Counseling and Psychological Services. You should just visit their website to set up an appointment to meet with a licensed therapist, or we also have externs that also work in our office. If you know of any other students that may be in need of this service, please pass the word along.
Right. Thank you for checking out the Student Disability Services Frequently Asked Questions video. If you have any additional questions, never hesitate to reach out to our office at disabilityservices@umich.edu.